Welcome to Diaries of a Data Scientist, our podcast in which we share about what's important to break into data science, provide valuable insights also for senior data scientists, and invite interesting guests from different data science areas. We're Yasmin and Kate, we're both data scientists and mentors working in industry, and we are sharing here our thoughts and experiences. Let's go! Hi everyone, this is episode 32 of Diaries of a Data Scientist, and we're so happy to welcome yet another great guest. Please join us all in welcoming Polina Galkin, and she's joining as a senior data scientist from SAP, but we're focusing today on her journey into data science. And Polina is a well-known talent. I think maybe you've seen her also on LinkedIn, especially if you're here in the region around Heidelberg. And we're so happy that you're with us today, Polina. So for you and for our listeners, the concept of our guest episodes are very simple, right? We're going to look at your data science journey, your diary of a data scientist. We're going to go through 3 chapters and hearing also, your perspective on some of the stories that were submitted to us. And I would say, let's dive right in. Are you feeling ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Amazing. That one question from my side, sorry, which is not on the agenda. I just wanted to congrats you with your recent news, right? That you have shared with us on the LinkedIn. So I guess that was very recently amazing. So congrats from our side.
Thanks a lot. Maybe you also know me under a different last name, but I changed it like a month ago. And very exciting journey.
Amazing. Okay, then let's get into the first chapter of becoming a data scientist, yes? And can you just tell us a little bit about your journey? So why did you choose to become a data scientist, and how did that journey happen for you, if you would look back in the days?
So I come from a sociology background, which is maybe for some people unusual. I think a few weeks ago somebody asked me, but do you even know how to code? Which after many years in data science, this is surprising that I still get that question, because like in my bachelor's, it says sociology. But I think for me, I was always interested in using statistics and math to explain the world. And in my studies, it was mainly organizations, how the organizations behave, and specifically the relationships between companies and their customers for my PhD. So to me, it was always like the thing that I want to do. I want to use statistical methods to understand how the relationships between companies and their customers come together. So that's, I think, in a nutshell, how I became a data scientist and what led me to my current role, creating AI solutions for the sales, services, marketing areas, basically all around the customer relationships. But I think it's also not the most straightforward journey. I did not do a data science masters. They were just starting when I was studying, so I was always thinking of it, but in the end I kind of did what I felt was more my thing. And I think I would classify it currently as computational social science. So this mix of data science applied to the social sciences world.
And I think that's just such a common misconception, and I don't take myself out of that, to be honest, because not having looked very deep before into sociology, and I also did not make that connection to statistics right away. But my conception about that shifted when I actually did the data science master at Uni Mannheim, which is also open for political science students from bachelor's and sociology students, basically. And that's because they do have many quantitative studies methods and lectures, and that completely shifted my understanding of that field. So that's super interesting, and I think it's very common that you have data scientists who come from a very, very different background.
Yeah, and I guess also we are a little bit biased in that way, because if I would look back to all the people that I know in the past that are from that field, I would always like on the question, where do you want to go after your uni, they would answer me something, or I want to go to the HR, or I want to go like to this, like, more soft skills. And therefore I had also a pretty biased understanding without actually looking at to the things, just taking whatever I was told for granted, for given. And that's like the basis. But Polina, I saw your reaction, which is, I guess, speaking itself.
Yeah. I think Mannheim is just generally a very special place. There are a few universities in Germany, and Mannheim is among them, that do this very quantitative sociology and political science programs. I think when I was studying, a lot of people, like, I think that was the most common answer. What do you want to do after the master's, after the PhD? I want to be a data scientist. So this is kind of this very different world that you have in Mannheim. And I was very lucky to find myself in there, also with great support from my professors and fellow students at the time. So it was, I think in Mannheim, it is very natural to hear the response from the psychologists and political scientists and sociologists that they want to go in data science.
That is interesting.
But still what you see, right, is that even having like really great solid education and foundations in such a field, I feel that many people do struggle at the very beginning of the career with really, feeling confident in their choice, but also confident in the working area. And from our like prior conversation, Polina, I know that you also have struggled with that a bit. Would you like to share something with our listeners about that journey?
Yeah, so it also took me a long time to identify as a data scientist, and that's a very interesting thing to notice. Like, after the fact, as a sociologist, because there's kind of this identification in a profession that can be studied in itself. But to me, I think I found for a very long time ways to not call myself a data scientist, because I had this stereotypical image in my head of like a data scientist should do this and this and this and that. And I felt like maybe I'm not yet there. So I think I called myself like some variations of analyst or analytics professions. And I was very creative in that. So I think I would give myself credit for inventing roles that maybe do not really exist, but trying to not face my fear to actually say, well, I am a data scientist. So it came, I think, towards kind of in my PhD where I started to say it out loud, because I was in a data science team at that point for quite some time. I was doing the same job as everybody else, so there was really no reason to not call myself a data scientist, and it still took a lot of
courage, perhaps?
courage, yeah, and
time,
and time to get to that point. But I think I realized that it's actually not just my problem. I mentor quite a lot in the last years, and I hear it also from the computer science students, from mathematics students. I hear it a lot that they have this image and they try to fit in, and sometimes they maybe come to the idea, maybe I should call myself a data engineer, which is a completely different job.
Yeah.
So nowadays I try to motivate everybody to just call yourself what you feel you are, because
that is amazing.
It only makes it better.
It makes it a reality. So just as you said, it's like almost like hiding away from that fact, and maybe trying to avoid also some of the, like, to be honest, also really high expectations around that area, of course, right? But still, like, I think it's almost a form of manifestation in that sense that, like, once you say it out loud, I think this becomes more part of your reality.
I want to ask you one question and hear, like, from the maybe personal perspective. So did you had that fear or feeling of not being allowed yourself to call yourself a data scientist because of your personal view, or something from the environment added to that fear? When you, like, probably there were people in your journey, they were, like, I don't know, sort of bullies in this kind of sense. Did you had that on your path?
I would not say that they were there were bullies. So I would say it was more like I did not see a lot of career paths. So I saw like the very prominent figures in data science, and of course, like I would not directly identify with them because they were like way up there, according to my understanding at that point. And I also told Yasmin in our pre-discussion, I was trying to find like what do data scientists do? How do they behave? So I was trying to find like what is that thing that makes you a data scientist, and I was trying to find something in that way. I remember I even found like a podcast or a blog that was like, what kind of music do data scientists listen to? So I was really trying to research that a bit, and yeah, I felt like at that point maybe there was just a very like maybe a much smaller and closed community that I did not find like a direct connection to. So the music that they apparently listened to was not the music that I liked.
Just out of curiosity, what was it?
It was a lot of techno, and I'm not.
I'm not.
Not Taylor Swift. You sure?
No.
Oh, that's sad.
Also not like metal, nothing like that. So it was like mostly techno, and it was like, okay,
that is interesting.
Maybe I don't fit in there, which is like definitely not a way to try to identify with a group.
And is that where some of your motivation is coming from to also share more about your personal story, about your work at SAP on LinkedIn, like to also, give other people a little bit more inspiration about also how data science can look like?
Yeah, that's definitely part of it. So I feel like whenever somebody's approaching me with a question around, so I don't really feel like a data scientist, or do you think I can become a data scientist from this background? I think that is always a question where I'm going to say, yes, of course, it does not matter what your background is. It matters that you want to become a data scientist, and there are so many different flavors of data scientists. I think everybody you ask would be slightly different. All of the three of us probably have a completely different problem-solving assets that we are using, and we are working on different problems. And I think in that sense, I would say it maybe is even easier for people with an interdisciplinary background, because for them, data science more is fitting into their field and not kind of, I have a tool set and I don't know where to apply it to.
I can really agree to that because I do have this background more of turning from computer science and software engineering, okay, with a mixture of a little bit of economics, and then turning to data science. And I know what you mean there, because when I compared myself to someone from political science, for example, right, they always had this application area in mind, and sometimes this, like, it's not like one is better than the other, but sometimes it helped them shape their approach more towards like that outcome. Whereas I think many people who have more of this general computer science background, they are sometimes too stuck up on the technology itself, and sometimes neglect what you actually want to, have as an outcome and end goal.
I think that right now we have a pretty nice second in time to get into one of the first stories from our community. So, Polina, are you ready to get a little bit deeper into this one? Okay, I'm going to read it out loud. Okay. So, and actually, this is very much connected to the topic that we have just discussed with you. So, I didn't start in tech, and my background was in the arts. And I just stumbled into the data by accident. I taught myself Python, took online courses, and eventually got a junior role. But even then, I couldn't say the words, I'm a data scientist. I felt like I didn't belong, no roadmap, just a constant fear of being found out. How should I overcome that? And I feel that you are going to be the perfect person in here to advise. How should one, like among even our listeners, I believe that we have a lot of right now students and people that want to switch the positions and the fields. What would you suggest in this situation?
So I think, and I must say, you guys have a very nice episode on the imposter syndrome. So to me, this shouts like, go and listen to that episode, because that's a very nice summary of what we all face. Yeah, for me, it's more when you have a fear of being found out, I think it comes from a place where you're trying to like match somebody else's expectations instead of maybe looking at what you're actually really good at and growing that as your path. So I think that's something that I definitely can recommend, like writing down your skills and also adding what you want to learn on top of that. And from that, it would hopefully feel more like you're building your own journey instead of trying to just do something that somebody else is already doing, and maybe it's not what you actually want to do. So to me, it's more about identifying yourself as your own version of the data scientist, and yeah, I think there are just a lot of possibilities there. I think we're all mixtures of different roles. Also, thinking about roles, you can think about maybe you are more of a mix of the data scientist and maybe a product owner, or a data scientist and somebody who engages with the stakeholders more. Data scientist who's doing machine learning engineering, if you go more technical, data engineering as well. So I think a lot of data science roles currently are on the edges of multiple roles actually, and being open to this mix, I think also makes things easier.
I love that because right now, I guess specifically with the new bubble that opened up a couple of years ago with the OpenAI, right, solutions, we're actually getting into the era and into the trends that we have much more new open roles in the technical field. So you don't need to be a person who is like coding as crazy 24/7 or better than Einstein in mathematics or whatever. In there, you gotta be the as you said, right, your version of that position, and also you might apply totally different like algorithms in totally different fields, because if you are somewhere in the biostatistics or bioinformatics, you're going to use some quantum things in there which are not used in like maybe marketing field or the sales field. So I totally agree with that.
Yeah, and also from a like hiring manager's perspective, like for really maturity of the positions, you really would look rather at the whole package that the person comes with, rather than like, you know, just a narrow slice of their skills. I mean, there might be positions where you need this like really this expertise, which is very, very narrow, but for most of the positions, including general data science positions, right, you want to have someone who also can really work in a team and fit into the culture of the company and so on, right? And it's I personally always like it when there's more to a person, and when they can also, for example, say, oh yeah, and I love to share my views on LinkedIn too, or like you're saying, like Polina, right? You're spending also your free time mentoring and helping other people in that field. So for me, that always makes a well more rounded package. And I think there's more to it than just being, as you said, Kate, this one person who's the best programmer. And especially with AI and things like GitHub Copilot, right? I feel this even becomes more true. But I have another question to you, Polina. So our listener, the person who submitted the story, basically scored the junior position, and you are also with a great employer. Do you have any advice or tips on how to score your first like entry job after university into data science? Anything that you did which was helping with your applications and finding your way into that?
I'd say my journey was not like applying for a junior position. I at that time I was looking for a PhD position, so that was like my dream world, to try to find a company that has a problem that I can solve in my PhD. And I had a pretty good idea of what the problem should be, so I wanted to go into the full life cycle of a customer relationship and find the data on that, because that was ultimately my goal. I wanted to work with a real company data. So I pitched that to several companies, and that was more of my approach of actually knowing what I want to do and what I have to offer and going through that. So I would always recommend that if somebody's looking for a PhD position. But if you're a junior person, I understand that you apply for a standard position, this might not be an option to offer them the projects that you would want to do, because they're hiring for a completely different project,
Bro.
or role in the end. But I do think that reaching out to people and trying to understand what is your skill set and what makes you special as a data scientist, I do believe that this helps everyone. And that's also what I try to do with my mentees. Last year I talked a lot about finding these junior roles, and it's actually in many cases like people try to I think you can even like go to ChatGPT right now and ask like, how should I behave in an interview, what should I answer? And I feel like in the last year, if you go into the interviews, you will hear a lot of like template things that ChatGPT suggested you say, but instead I
That
think
won't make you stick out, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
it will only make it feel weird because you're trying to learn it by heart, and then it doesn't
Yeah.
really feel like you're answering the questions on your own. And yeah, so I think looking into how you actually fit into this role and what you bring in, even as a junior person, this is very special. And I think this differentiates you from somebody with like maybe like a straightforward background of like bachelor's, master's, and yeah, I think this helps a lot. And by the way, there are very, very impressive data science projects and use cases in the art world. I think that's just something to point out. There was like, I think a talk by university and the not the university, a museum in the Netherlands about how they use computer vision to restore the colors from the paintings to then create the digital versions of the paintings. So I think that is impressive in itself. So maybe
was-
that's actually the direction.
It was also my immediate thought of like, I mean, coming from an arts background, computer vision must be such an amazing field. And
Yeah.
because I think you have a completely different perspective on that, as, you know, again, coming maybe from a pure computer science background.
And I have also one thing is I have one colleague at BSF. Actually, he's a really, really cool data scientist, and he's also has a passion in art. So what he's doing is pretty much he's giving the Python code in order to write a picture, and his pictures are actually right now being sold on the actual exhibitions. So
Wow.
that's and he has his own Instagram account when he's like posting pictures that are being coded.
That's very
That's
impressive.
nice.
Yeah. So Yassine, that's back to you.
So sorry. Yeah, so I was just about to say, okay, then let's assume we all scored like the nice entry junior position. You've spent a couple of years already in that field. So we would like to look at your next chapter of being a data scientist. And first, Polina, we would love to hear from your point of view. What are the 3 most important skills that makes a good data scientist working in industry? Yeah, industry can be software industry or also like, industry.
So to me, the first one is, I would say, critical thinking. And maybe, so that's kind of an aggregate of multiple skills that you have. But it comes because I love working with people that I call data detectives. So where you have like data quality problems, you're starting to realize like where does it come from, and you really dig deeper into that. And then I think from there you can reach a point of how do you proceed with the project, just purely from looking at the kind of data you have and what the data represents. And I think, so in this case, to me, this is really a lot of critical thinking, not taking the data that you have for granted, also not taking the models that you have for granted, and being more proactive and more open to modifying your standard approach to what actually fits the business problem best. I think that's the first one. The second to me would be research and being creative. So that's maybe because I come from an academic background, and yeah, that's definitely something that I love to do. Even like if a lot of things that we use in practice are more standard, so you won't always get to apply the most cutting edge research. But I think being interested in research and being able to find that small thing that might really help in this case to solve a problem, I think this is a pretty this is a pretty interesting skill, and that's something that I would recommend everybody develops. I think we can talk about the explainable AI part of my career
Well,
afterwards. But yeah, I think that's kind of how I ended up doing explainable AI, because I was looking for research to actually help my stakeholders, and then there was no way back. No, I'm
You
in love
fell
with the
into the
field.
rabbit hole, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
fell in love
Yeah,
completely.
yeah,
And
yeah.
the
And
third
then
one?
the third one would be understanding the business problem. I think that's something that comes very often in data science discussions. You should not just try to like build the most advanced technical tool. You shouldn't aim for like, oh, there is this new algorithm and I want to only use that because now that's my my most recent tool. There are a lot of simpler approaches that would solve the business problem, but you actually have to know what you're solving to get it right. And for that, I think, depending on the role, some people will have to talk to the end users, talk to the stakeholders much more. That's more of my role.
Mhm.
But I think even for the colleagues who don't touch the business stakeholders world that much, it's still important to understand what we are trying to solve with our solutions. And yeah, I think that's something that comes with experience. And if you have this, like asking why are we building this from the beginning, I think that is a real game changer in how the career grows, because sometimes it takes like a few years to realize that, but if you have it from the beginning, I think you actually like learn a lot more and how people approach problem solving, and the feedback that the stakeholders give that also will land differently if you start with the
Mhm.
why question from the beginning.
Yeah. Why and for whom, basically, right? And also
Yeah.
taking some time to get to know who are you developing for, who are the users, who are the stakeholder. Yeah, I love that.
Oh. And like just in here, I just want to talk a little bit about the different concepts of the technical departments, because usually as a junior, you don't really have a choice, I would say, to get to this point, because usually the structure or how the team has been organized is in the way that you have, like if you are on the like very, let's say, bottom level, you are not getting a chance to actually talk to the stakeholders. You're not getting a chance to actually ask what and why, because you are having a very technical lead who is going just to give you the tasks that, I don't know, maybe like working in sprints, and that the
Choose your
first
user
sprint, like
story.
yeah, something
Oh,
like that. So it's this, yeah. You I guess you also gotta need to have a choice in order to do that.
yeah, I think there I'm very lucky to be in a team where we actually have more openness. So I think that's maybe historically how the team grew and how we developed. But I really appreciate that ability to ask, and there will be somebody who will try to
Mhm.
explain it to you. I think also with the generative AI solutions nowadays, it's more likely that there will be some feedback collection, because in the past, like you would deploy maybe something to a dashboard, and then the dashboard does not offer the ability to collect feedback.
Yeah.
Maybe a
They only
thumbs
maybe
up or thumbs down somewhere, but like, yeah,
Yeah.
that's
no,
it.
not even that. I
Not
think
even.
yeah, I think some dashboards that I have seen, it was impossible to collect any feedback, or you can only collect it for the full dashboard, not for your specific part of the
Hmm.
maybe scorings that you display. I think that's something where also nowadays we have a large progress in the ways how we collect feedbacks. I think now there's also more opportunities to ask, like, can I read the feedbacks and the comments if they're free text? I think that's like something that data
Mhm.
scientists 5 years ago would dream of, but it would be sometimes even impossible.
Yeah. So right now, getting into, as we have learned by experience, hardest question of this section.
Okay.
So,
Like,
Yasmin
don't make
knows.
her be afraid, Kate. You're scaring.
I'm not scaring you. So, okay, what is
I'm
your
not scared, I'm
personal?
excited.
Amazing. What is your personal data science superpower, and what is your kryptonite?
Yeah, that's a very tough one.
But I'm already
very
happy,
tough.
Polina. Like, I'm gonna give you a few seconds to think. Because, Kate, did you see how Polina was not questioning what kryptonite is? So she
Yes,
knows.
yes.
She's the first one.
There is the song. You know, from a song that's like early 2000s music, I guess. All right, the superpower, that is very tough. Yeah, I think it's actually it's hard to call something a superpower because I think it's also changing over the course of the career. And yeah, I would say maybe some things that I'm hopefully pretty good at. Yeah, and it's hard to call something a superpower for sure. I like translating business problems into data and into data science problems. And I think that's very often something that requires a lot of thinking and actually a lot of digging into the data and into what people are asking for, because very often they're asking for one thing, but then you start looking at their process, you start thinking of what their actually process-wise problem is, and then you realize what they need is completely different. And then in the discussions, you actually kind of try to sell the data-wise more favorable approach that solves their problem to them, and that's I think an interesting thing to do, and something that I really enjoy because so again, coming from a social science background, when I see data, I don't think about well, this is a data set and here are my distributions, and maybe this is a standard normal and the other one is binomial. I'm thinking this is a representation of what people did in the system, and there is a reason why they do it. So, for instance, like if you're looking at the data, you will sometimes find like they entered the year 3025 several times, and this is not because because it's
Because
part
they're,
of like
yeah.
a data issue. It's actually a process issue that there is a tool that is allowing them to enter a year manually. And of course, like,
Yeah.
how often have I typed the year wrong? Very often. I think that's actually something that I enjoy doing a lot, and I'm
Like
trying to
when
work
you just
towards my
said that,
superpowers.
I'm thinking about, like, I think we all know this, like, video on the worst user experience applications ever, right?
Which one is
You know
that?
what I mean? Like where
It's
they
been a lot.
where you need to, I don't know, you want to close the window, and like every time you want to hover over the close, like it's moving somewhere else on the screen. You know, there was this competition of the worst UX ever. And when you just said, like, yes, allowing someone to manually enter like a date, and maybe not having a date picker or something like that, which would just avoid that. I mean, as you said, Polina, there's always a reason for, like, in most of the cases, there's a reason why people behave certainly in a system.
Yeah, and also what I want to add in here is that looking at the back in the uni days when I was studying the data science field, we never actually touched that part of the process because we were taught in the way that you got a data and that your connection to the business side is kind of blocked from that on. And you're not looking at the process, you're not looking at the business side, you're looking at the data and whatever you can find suitable or interesting or rational from the mathematical side. And I think this is something that, I don't know how that for you, Polina and Yasmin, when we are speaking with our mentees, this is, I feel, the most thing which is underrated and not given by the universities, even on the master's degrees of the technical field.
Yeah, and I feel that's why work experience along the way does really, really help to gain a more realistic understanding about what the job would be like, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think on that, it actually helps a lot if you have real projects in your bachelor's or master's. So I remember I was doing a very, very cool project with a car sharing company here in the region. And yes, I had to go on their premises and work on their computer because they didn't allow data to go out. But it was really interesting to also like learn what their problem is and get the feedback during my studies. And yeah, I think I would recommend everybody to just. I know it sounds tough, but if there is like a small business that you want to approach and help them solve their problems, and yeah, you should not underestimate like how open they would be to to actually doing this. Or volunteering is also I'm part of Correlate and I've done projects with them, so for nonprofits. That's also something that gives you this unique experience of actually helping a company with the data science expertise. And yeah, this teaches you like that it's not always about the most complex model. It's often about just knowing what will help their business grow.
Yeah. And let's go to the hardest question. What is the kryptonite?
Kryptonite. I think I will actually try to connect it to my answer here. Nowadays, I think everybody is obsessed with value measurement in AI. And I read it on Substack yesterday. Like, there are a lot of reports for value of AI in 2025, and everybody says like it's underestimated, and we should measure more or do some different kind of measurement. And so, to me, my kryptonite is this value measurement that is just for the paper, where like you read these reports and they're based on some assumptions, or they're not really based on the user experience. They're not really based on how the users feel, and sometimes they're maybe not even based on products having users. I think this is something that gets me nowadays a lot, where I feel like, but let's focus on the value that is there where the users are using the product, and let's try to focus the measurement on the actual users. Because yeah, I think if you just do like, let's get higher numbers for the papers, or let's get higher numbers for this report, or now everybody says it's underestimated, so let's multiply it by 2, this does not really bring value. And I think everybody, like, of course, AI is a hype, and especially generative AI, agents, agentic. Everybody's trying to get the highest number possible to make the headlines or maybe communicate. Yeah, but I think really
Sometimes it can
focusing on the
feel,
users.
yeah, sometimes it can feel a bit superficial in that sense, right? That it's not really, as you said, grounded in what at the end maybe really, really matters, and maybe not the same area, but somewhat connected. That's always what that I felt not great about also the computer vision field, for example. So a couple of years back when I also did my master's and thought about should I do a PhD or not, it's a super highly competitive field. And then sometimes it's around the 0.0001% of improvement on some benchmark, which is, to be honest, not significant in that sense that it will actually make a difference in when you're using that model into some application, you know. But at least you got that one number reported. And yeah, we all know that also people can make mistakes, and there also has been sometimes even fraud around such benchmarks. And this is what kind of sucked, to be honest, where I was like, this is not really helping anyone. And somewhat this was a downturn for me of doing a PhD in that specific area back then. We have another story for the chapter, being a data scientist. And let me just tell you, it was signed with an overwhelmed data scientist. So that was the signature, basically.
I feel you. I feel you.
So, okay. Hi, love the podcast. I'm a data scientist, and lately I've been spending a lot of time on project management and stakeholder communication, way more than I expected. it's starting to overshadow my actual data work. Is this normal for the role, or am I taking on too much outside of my lane? I would appreciate any advice. So what is your immediate reaction to such a story?
My immediate reaction is I've been there last year. And so to me, it was like, because I officially had 2 roles as a senior data scientist and then also as a PO. And I underestimated how much work the PO is and how regularly this has to happen. So, yeah, it was one of my maybe really interesting things that I tried last year to be a PO, but also this year I realized it was overshadowing my actually technical skills, and it was overshadowing what I really wanted to grow into. So now I'm focusing more on being a technical lead and mixing the roles less. But I think it really comes to the organizational setup. So if you don't have this differentiation between a PO, which is a different role than a senior data scientist, it will at some point feel overwhelming. So really, I really think it comes to the organization also realizing that not one person can do it end to end. Because I feel like this person might also be the machine learning engineer and the support
And the data
specialist who is
engineer.
maintaining, and then the data engineer. So I think nowadays the projects and the environments grow so complicated that, yes, I think that's one of my favorite discussions in the field right now around like, should everybody be full stack or should you have like a very specialized role? I do believe in full stack data science. So I think it's very valuable to understand the end-to-end process, but I think doing each role as a full-time job at once is too much.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I think it's also an organizational problem, and as I'm also a believer of defining your own roles, I would definitely recommend to this person to maybe write it down and see out of the like maybe MLOps frameworks in terms of roles, what are you currently doing, and is this mix balanced, or is this really going towards the stakeholder engagement too much? And yeah, then maybe even talk to the manager and ask for advice on how to grow this sustainably.
Yeah, I like that. And advocating for yourself. And as you said, like first maybe creating some transparency on how many hours do I spend on what kind of task. And I think, I mean, that person might be coming from a startup kind of environment where at the beginning it's quite normal that there's too few people who take on basically all of the responsibilities. But usually that means that, you know, maybe like the number of customers or stakeholders you have to interact with is still limited. But when a startup then grows and maybe is not adding people fast enough, this can be easily overwhelming. That's when, as you said, Polina, the organization needs to mature, and you need to make transparent to your boss, to the founder, whoever. Like, look, like we cannot continue to do it like that. We need to add a dedicated role for XYZ.
Yeah, and in this sense, I very much love the idea or the concept to own the tasks that you're doing, not to take the entire responsibility on your manager or like the company who is giving you this amount of work, but also be able to stand up for yourself and say, and actually look at the paper on the statistics. What are you doing? What are your priorities? And go ahead and talk about that with your manager, that something is not correct and you want to change it or you want to shift that.
Yeah, and I think a really good point that you mentioned, Kate, is writing it down. Because I think to technical people, if you stop coding, if your coding becomes irregular because you have to spend a lot of time in meetings, it feels like you're unproductive. It feels like you're actually not doing anything. And I hear this from, I think, many colleagues who have like these patches of just meetings and nothing else. I think we all share that because we feel more productive when we code, because that's maybe the task that you identify with. But actually, if you spend time in meetings, if you get stakeholders on board, if you get use cases started, it's not nothing. So I think that's also maybe from a technical perspective, you're undervaluing what you're actually doing by having this feeling that, well, I don't code enough today, so I get nothing done. But I think writing it down actually helps you yourself see, well, I'm actually doing a lot, and there is no reason not to talk about it and not to communicate it. But I think a lot of data scientists in such situations, myself included, have this feeling of like, well, I'm actually not getting anything done because I'm in the meetings.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just have to say something and comment onto that, right? Because I think, as you said, Polina, there's really meetings that, like, maybe only because you're not coding, it doesn't feel like equally as work, but are really productive to take your project further, right? But there's also meetings where I feel developers, data scientists are dragged in for, just for the safety measure of having them there in case something is needed. And here I would really like to challenge, in general, corporate culture to be more resilient and just allow people to drop off meetings in like when they feel that they cannot contribute anything to that. And basically establishing this as a normal part of company culture to say, hey, I'm Yasmin here. I'm a data scientist. I don't feel like I can really contribute. In case you need me, you can ping me, but I will now leave this meeting because I don't feel like I add any value here.
Yeah. And honestly, like just to add to this point as well, I'm very, very much in love with my current setup in the team, because actually what we're doing in there, we're having this shared space. And for every single meeting, there must be an agenda of what is going to be discussed, like point by point. And before going to the meeting, I would look at this agenda. And if I see that it doesn't really, like, for me to be in there, I'm 100% allowed to not going into this meeting. So yeah, completely agree with you, Yasmin.
So it's definitely important to also know like when you are needed in the meeting. I think to that data scientist, it might probably be more like it's all stakeholder meetings, so you have to take them. And I think dropping out maybe could feel like you are actually worsening the problem. There's also this very cool Microsoft study on multitasking in Teams. I recommend everybody before setting up a meeting to read that study. And it basically shows that the more people you have and the longer the meeting goes, the more multitasking is going on. So actually, when you're setting up a meeting, you also have to remember that if you invite 20 people, you will not expect them all to listen. They will start doing something else. And I think that also comes to the culture of making the meetings valuable to reflect on why you are scheduling them and trying to actually avoid people writing emails and coding in parallel and having you as a background noise.
Yeah.
Because there's more better playlists on Spotify if you just want the background noise, to be honest. Yeah.
Oh, there is
agree.
also AI generated music. I think that's a pretty interesting one. I learned there is like focus music that's AI generated, so I want to try that to see if it works.
Yeah. If you find something, I hope you can share that on LinkedIn with us, so we can all join you in listening. I had one last question before we maybe wrap up that chapter, and it's about your PhD, Polina. So again, maybe a little bit of a harder question, but maybe also something you anyway already reflected on. Would you recommend doing a data science PhD right now to like graduate from a master? So like maybe entailing also the question, would you do it again for yourself? But what is your recommendation to other people? Under which circumstances would you recommend a PhD in data science right now?
This is one of my favorite questions. And yes, I would do my PhD again if it's in the same setup, collaborating with a company. I feel like I have a lot of nice PhD positions posted on my LinkedIn feed like daily this summer. So if you are looking for a PhD in AI position, there is so much out there. I feel tempted to apply to all of them, and then I realize maybe not at this point in my career, but there is currently a lot of research that can be done, especially in the explainable AI area. So I think it's very motivating, and it's also growing more interdisciplinary. But I also feel like when I talked to people and they told me like I hated writing my master thesis, it felt like torture. I would never want to do it again. Should I do a PhD? Then the answer is no.
Yeah.
Because it comes from this love to research. Also, it comes from the desire to maybe frame your own problem, and it comes with a lot of responsibilities. So I must say it was a great time. I learned a lot. The finishing phase was extremely tough, and yes, there is a lot to research, and the field is growing more and more. And yes, I would recommend it to the ones who actually feel like they have fun and enjoy the research. And yeah, when I was starting, my supervisors were telling everybody who started with my cohort, like, think about it like a very long-term relationship with the topic. You will have to stay in this PhD for like 3 years and maybe more.
At
So
least,
think
yeah.
about that. And if you think you will not like get bored of this topic because it's maybe trendy and you want to start it because it's like everybody's talking about it, so you want to start right now, think about how you would feel in 3 years doing the same thing. And yeah, that's a very important question.
Message at the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you so
maybe
much for your transparency, Polina.
one question in here is I feel that you are like you're talking from the perspective because you were, let's say, pretty much having fun with that, right? And
Not
that's,
only
I
fun.
guess, well, but like you know, it feels from the outside that you are like it's not something for you which you would like really tough or hard. It's something that you're naturally coming from. It just like feels like from kind of this angle of your personality. And maybe I will rephrase a question in here right now. Do we need, as a data scientist, do you need to have a PhD in order to get to the companies? Yeah.
No, definitely not. Also, a master's, not necessarily. I think it all is very specific to a person. We have sometimes I see students who already have a level of reflection that others do not have in their masters. So it's always about the person. It's always about your approach to problems. So I would not say like unless you have a PhD, like no, do not bother applying or something like that. This is definitely not true. And yeah, there are areas where a PhD is very useful, but if you're just going for like this very standard, maybe even traditional machine learning, maybe building Gen AI applications perspective, not all of the jobs would need a PhD skill set. And yes, I would not say it's necessary, but I would say if you're having fun doing research, it's a unique thing to do, and I would recommend it.
I think this is really one thing there. You need to decide to do it for yourself, not for the title, not for like, you know, the hopes of maybe getting into that one position, but you need to do it because you're generally, as you said, Polina, interested into that topic. You can imagine spending yourself even 4 years if needed on that and going through highs and lows together with the topic. And, you know, otherwise I think it's going to be extremely challenging.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also I think some people think like a PhD will get me hired in a company, which is not necessarily the case. I think there are specific research departments in very large companies, maybe in the AI native, AI focused companies where a PhD would be required because of the things that they do. But if you're actually looking at a standard, like more classic general data science career, getting a PhD actually removes time from you getting professional experience. So some companies would think like, well, this is a university person who is not having the skills that we need, maybe in ML ops or bringing models to production. And you will be challenged on that. For sure. So I think also, if you think it's like a ticket to getting a good job, there is no ticket to getting a good job. It's always coming from like you knowing what you want to do.
Yeah,
Amazing.
I love that. And also, I mean, to be a little bit also rational about that, right? Because what does this mean? I mean, if you're super fast, you might have your bachelor's with 21, 22, if you started right at, for example, 18. you're adding 2 more years of masters. There might be some program which compress it into 1 year, but let's say 2 years standard. You may be so 24, 25, and you're adding 3 to 4 more years to your academic circle in that sense, right? So realistically, you're 27, 28 when you're done, and looking then, and say at the worst case, have only been in an academic field and maybe never have been on a working student internship or even like doing a PhD with a company topic attached, right? I think nowadays many people do it, but I mean, theoretically, this can happen. You have to also be realistic that, as you say, Polina, this is taking also some years of your time to where you could have gained working experience and have some trade-off also, maybe even also in terms of salary, of course.
Yeah. So think twice.
Yeah, I think, talk to people, right? Talk to people about you wanting that decision, listen to different perspectives, and just be really also confident, I think, in choosing a great topic.
Rational.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also feel like if you want to stay in academia, because now I've always been talking from a perspective of like you want to go into the industry. If you want to stay in academia, a completely different story. You're not losing anything. But talk about the job market in academia to somebody who has tried it. It's not easy, but yeah. So also the difference between industrial and academic careers shouldn't be underestimated.
Okay, so right now with that, we I guess can close chapter number 2 and go all the way into the chapter number 3, which is about your, let's say, reflection and your growth. And the first question that I want to start at is, what is the one misconception you had in the past about being a data scientist?
A misconception. I thought all data scientists know all of the models. I really thought, like,
forget about this.
every tiny paper that comes out, I thought everybody around me has read it and knows it and maybe can like code it from scratch.
Like a way to raise the bar.
Yeah, so I felt like, wow, there is a lot to learn. And yeah, nowadays I realize the field is a lot more selective, and this is actually what makes it fun. Probably you and the person sitting next to you in the office have read completely different papers, have run completely different code for fun or maybe for the project, and bringing that together is a lot of fun and very interesting, but nobody has read all the papers.
You don't have so much time.
Yeah, like even the newsletters, it's impossible.
Yeah.
Maybe the AI researcher, like the AI co-scientist, maybe has read all of the papers, right?
Probably, yeah.
Okay, given. Now that's a different story, but otherwise we're all just human and also cope with water.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's a good one. I think it's a good one, and I think it's what many like young folks are scared about when they enter this field, having that high pressure or this conception about that they are hold to that standard and they need to know everything, right? Especially coming out of uni, which is insane.
Yeah, and I guess like for that reason, I'm very much happy and enjoying going sometimes to the office to actually talk to the data people in there, because as you said, right, we have totally different backgrounds. We have perhaps read different papers. We're even doing our applications in different fields of the data science. And just through this peer learning, you can get to know a lot of things in there. So yeah, that's awesome.
There's a lot of creativity in, for example, taking methods from a different field and applying it to your field. I came to sequence analysis from the social science field, but actually then I realized there is a lot of research in the actual DNA sequencing that is actually doing that from the beginning, but I learned it as part of my social science journey, and the networks approaches. That's also, I think, you can think from a network's perspective, but then if you come to a different area, you will see how people actually see them differently, and yeah, that's always very very inspiring to see how the same method can be completely different in a different environment.
Love that. And we have one last story from the community. Kate, would you like to take us through that story?
Of course. So that's a little bit interesting. I was once asked to build a model to predict how long employees will take to solve a client ticket. Technically, I could do that, but I was worried it might be used to pressure or punish people. I pushed back, but it wasn't easy. Have you ever been in a situation where you had to question the purpose? And how did you handle that? I guess it very much goes into your field of the ethical AI and like in general ethics in the data science field. So what are your thoughts? Right now I'm having goosebumps. What is your immediate reaction?
So immediate reaction is there are a lot of regulations in the EU. So if this person is in the EU, you will probably have a lot of regulations that would
Protect.
help to protect you. And I think currently with the growth of the AI field, yes, we have a lot of interest in automation, and I think in many cases it can be communicated as the purpose is to get rid of people doing the jobs, to put it in plain terms. But I think we all heard like Duolingo getting rid of the writers because they used AI to create a task. So I think it's something that is a lot on the news, and I think maybe being influenced by the news, some stakeholders might take it very
Negatively?
directly, maybe. So they think like, oh, Duolingo is getting rid of people, so let me also like
Do
try
the
to come
same.
up with a similar problem. Yeah. I think as a data scientist, you always have the ability to show them that, well, this is not solving your problem, because there may be use cases that will support the people. And actually, what we always see is like if the colleagues for whom we are developing use cases, if they are taking a lot of very repetitive tasks that can be automated, but then they don't have time for the more important tasks, and for support, maybe building a customer relationship and actually explaining to the customer how the solution is working. So it's a change in the roles. It's not necessarily that you're trying to automate and to maybe remove the people from the process altogether. So I think as a data scientist, there's always a way to ask and see what is the final goal, and also to show in the process where the bottleneck is and what is leading to maybe the problem that the stakeholders are trying to solve with this approach. Yeah, from the European regulations, of course, like if you have the applications in the company, you have the EU AI Act, you have the auditing that I'm now thinking a lot of because I think it has been communicated that there is a chance that everybody's audited from next year on. So I think at big companies, you would have frameworks that also support you and guide you. There's the Works Council, if you're in a large company, that also would frequently be involved if your automation is regarding the employees and their daily work. There are a lot of mechanisms that you will find currently in data science. I think it's about the discussion, and it's about approaching the stakeholders with your concerns. Definitely, yeah. I think
and I think it's maybe part of that critical thinking ability that you mentioned, right? To also take a step back as a data scientist when you get a new project and really also like understand what is wanted from you, right? And also like, I mean, in the end, if you're not being comfortable with something, to also like speaking up and asking and finding out, because oftentimes maybe it's also a transparency issue that you maybe do not really know what is actually the process, as you said, like what will they do with that model or with that application? So what is the end goal? And I feel that also, I mean, coming out of university, many people do focus on, okay, yeah, we're doing data science for profit companies, and of course, in the end goal is to either save costs or increase the profit, of course, right? But I think also what you lack, if you really do not want to support that, there's also many, as you said, Polina, and non-profit organizations for whom you could apply data science support. And if that is really, really important to you from a value side, I mean, there's many ways where you can apply data science in that sense for the good, for example, of society or for other causes where you maybe feel more comfortable with.
Yeah, and I guess it also takes you personally a lot of courage, especially if you're being a data scientist on the junior position, but in the startup, where they don't have this differentiation between senior, middle, and junior. And you need to have a lot of courage within yourself in order to push it back and explain that in a nice manner that this is not according to the AI Act, for example, and that you will not be doing that, because in this situation, you have to take the risks on yourself as well.
Yeah, and I think what I would also add to this is two things. Actually, one is the GDPR and the processing of the personal and tax data. There's also regulations about that. So before you start the project, also think about like if it's how fast the customer problems take to solve. Think about the kind of data that will be used for solving that problem, and if it is actually allowed to use the data, because depending on the free text data can have a lot of sensitive information. So that's from that side. And from the perspective of where the stakeholders come from, I feel like currently there is a high trust in AI. And sometimes this trust is really coming from their one time asking this to ChatGPT, as plain as it sounds, but a lot of people just ask one thing to ChatGPT and then they have this very weird persuasion that it can do anything.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
I think you also have to communicate not just like the positive sides of having AI and of having a model live, but also where it would not work too well. So
Limitations.
you have to make it very clear to the stakeholders of what are the fallbacks and what would be the possible downsides of having some automation on. Because I think if you take the request and then you build it and you never speak about AI is never perfect, you cannot have 100% accuracy. You cannot really achieve like 100% consistency with the large language models, for example. If you don't speak about that, then this false assumption that AI is always correct and always better than people, that will just be propagated further and further in the organization. And I think this is actually something that the data scientists have the power to address. And talking about the limitations sometimes helps to disillusion the stakeholders.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say that the possibility of frustration from the user side is way higher if you just leave them on their own and do not tell them up front, and then they make their own experiences with that and might get frustrated super easily, instead of just managing expectations clearly from the beginning, being clear about what are limitations, what is not working well, and then seeing that confirmed, right? Then they don't have this feeling of, but wait, this should work and why is it not? So this is a completely different story.
Yeah.
I would love to ask one more question to you, Polina, which is, from your data scientist perspective, what are areas in data science, also research, that you feel are neglected currently by the overall, say, community, but where you feel like, oh, there's so much more potential in that?
That's an interesting one, because I think I'm in this research bubble where I feel like there is research on every possible kind of a topic. And I think it's actually easy to get lost, and you feel like everything has been researched a lot when you feel like there are like hundreds of papers that get published daily, weekly, and you don't have time to read them all. So I do not attempt at the moment, but even like sometimes I go through the newsletters and then I try to bookmark everything that's interesting to me, and then I realize, oh, it's actually all interesting. I think that that still does happen to me. So I want to say explainable AI is currently growing a lot. So from the classic approaches, so my experience with explainable AI was coming from the stakeholder requests, actually, to understand the models and the predictions better and make them more actionable. So actually using AI to help them make decisions further on. So I feel like there is this direction, but also mechanistic interpretability and explainable AI in processes. And these fields, I feel like, are growing a lot at the moment, but they're very prominent for me. Maybe they're not very prominent for everybody in the data science world. But I'm going to the Explainable AI conference next week, and I'm reading the agenda. I'm reading. I'm going to just like listen, not to present. But I love going to conferences just like as a listener to get the overview of the cutting edge research that there is. Yeah, and I read the agenda and I feel like everybody can find something in the field for them, like their computer vision, their LLM topics in there. There is responsible AI, there is how to make impact with AI in the organization. There is like the finance area, the medical area, where I think explainable AI has made some very large progress in the past. So I feel like if you don't really get into explainable AI, or if you didn't get into explainable AI until now is the time, because
that's nice.
A field that brings a lot of people together.
Yeah, even if you feel like, oh, I don't know much yet about this field, and you're kind of thrown into the cold water visiting such a conference from that standpoint, but I think it can really help you get a good overview about what's there and where you maybe want to dig deeper.
And that's something that's very good. If you're doing a PhD, you will get to conferences and you will meet a lot of researchers. And then when you read papers, you will feel like, oh, this is by that person I met. I think it makes
so
a big
cool.
difference. It makes a big difference to read papers like that.
Yeah. Okay.
Amazing.
Perfect. So right now we're going to wrap up our amazing and perfect episode today. And we're getting to the fast track, which is pretty much a summary of your diary of a data scientist, just like fast 5 questions. Please just answer quickly without thinking the first thing that you got in your mind, okay? Okay, then I'm going to start. What is the best page and the best moment of your data science career?
It is so tough finishing the PhD. I think that's one of the highlights.
Nice. What keeps you in this field?
I love the data. I cannot live without data.
Best advice you got early in your career?
That's when I was coming up with my PhD idea, and one of the mentors that I had at the time, he like ripped it apart.
Like physically?
Physically. That was a very nice moment. We had a really good relationship, so it was not offensive in any way, but he ripped it apart, and he was making a point that I should bring myself to the page and not try to put myself in like a very strict and rigid frame. And I think that made me do my PhD the way I did it. So that was like a starter, but maybe not advice as itself, but maybe more this action of like be you.
Like a wake up.
Like a wake-up call, yeah.
Cool. Nice. Which tool had the biggest impact on your work? Is there any tool you want to mention?
I would say it's the SHAP package that was maybe the break into the explainable AI world for me.
Amazing. And what is the emerging trend excites you the most nowadays?
I would say it's mechanistic interpretability.
Interesting.
Now everyone needs to Google that.
Yes, please, everybody just do it. And the circuit analysis that Anthropic is publishing will actually give you a completely different view on LLMs.
Perfect.
Amazing.
Okay, so with that, we're finishing our episode today. Thank you very much, Polina, for being with us here. And honestly, I feel that we have we managed to actually get a very honest, transparent overview of your Diary of a Data Scientist, which is going to be amazingly valuable for our listeners community and the followers, your followers as well. And that the final minutes were dedicated this to you. It is your stage, and you can say whatever you want to the people that are going to listen to that.
Thanks a lot. So I think I thought a lot about how I would like to end the episode. And to me, I said it repeatedly during the episode, find your own path and build the career journey that reflects you the most. I think that is something that I wish everybody would have the freedom to do. And if you get the chance to do it, start now.
Amazing. And guys, you know what to do, right? Like, subscribe. And if you have any questions, we're very much welcome to see them in the comments. Thank you very much. Until the next time.
Bye-bye.
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 This was Diaries of a Data Scientist by Yasmin and Kate. And if you enjoyed the episode, remember to check out our YouTube channel and our LinkedIn pages for more engaging content from the data science world. Thank you for today, and seeing you in the comments.